Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we have Sunday Yomo, Nikki Okereke, Mango Weni, Scholar Peterside, Rochelle White, Madobuko, Joy, Star, David, Tracy, Jake, Shakina, Adeshola is here. Okay, welcome every one of you. I want to use this opportunity to welcome all of you that are here with us today, and also use the opportunity to call on all of you to go invite your friends, because this is going to be another debate. Today is going to be the final one of the primary debates, in the sense that primary in the original ones. I think Innocent had originally planned 3 debates that he grouped all his questions into 3 categories, and but after that, after each session, we've always had questions coming in, but we have not addressed the questions individually after each season or session, just because we were thinking, let's finish the primary 3 groups and categories that we had planned for, and then after that we'll be able to do brainstorming and what do you call it, hard talk on the various questions, miscellaneous questions that are coming on. You know, some of them are different, so we're going to also see, if you don't finish those ones will be shorter, in the sense that each answer will be shorter. So if you don't finish each one at a particular program, we'll keep on doing it until we finish all the questions. So I'm ready for that. And if our agnostic and atheist brothers and sisters will be ready, you know, let them keep the questions coming. Any question, you know, I'll be open to answer. But today is the 3rd group of questions, and I would like to hand over the leadership and the anchor of this program to my brother and our friend, Innocent MAGAJI. Here you are.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, DC. So the last message was about cultural aspect, and I was very much satisfied with the answers we gave, especially the last part. The first part was a little bit, should I say, you addressed the question in the sense that I'd like to, the sense that I want you to approach it, because the intention wasn't for a debate or to nullify or validate atheism or agnosticism. The intention was to find a place on how to incorporate African culture, for a place for African culture, African tradition and customs. How can Christianity and African custom cohabit? That was so in most part, in the beginning of the debate, of the conversation, you answered in such a way that you tried to point out the most negative aspect of the African culture, which wasn't my expectation. I wanted more to, okay, yes, the culture is there. What is the positive part of it? What can we do about it? Where can we place it? So I was happy with the last solution we gave. You already have a program in place for it, so people can go on and watch the previous. I know many people will not think it's very important, but they don't know that it is part of our life. The word culture actually means way of life. Way of life is your spiritual life, your physical life, everything, the way you think, the ideas, everything. So, and having Christianity that will change our life is very important. So now Christianity is also part of our culture, is also part of our economic program, which is the aspect we're going to talk about today. The last part, the economic program, and how can Christianity affect what are the effects of Christianity, both positive and negative. So here we're going to look at the positive aspect of faith. And I want to say again, because I know many people came in attacking me and telling me that I'm not representing their ideas, I'm not representing their agenda. Of course, I'm not here to represent certain things because I'm one who might not agree. So I want to invite you to think, to try to reason with me, and not to try to reason, to see things in a more universal aspect. I want us to be pragmatic. I want us to think analytically, not to fight, not to hear insult. So this aspect is really, really interesting because I know many people have never sit down one day to think about it or to try to develop it. Or we go ahead about the atheists, they go on to criticize churches, they go on to criticize pastors. Recently too, DSA carried on a campaign to reform on these churches. So there are certain points I want to point out about these churches that I observed personally when I was in Nigeria, currently how they operate. I would like to say, this is my personal opinion, that the Nigerian church is one of the most organized systems in Nigeria currently. Most organized in the sense that the pastor has a vision. He wants to model his audience in a specific manner, and he succeeds in doing that, both either positive or negative. He programmed them, he formats their mind in his vision. He wants them in a specific way so that they will bring all their money and put it in his bank account, and he's very good in his craft. So he makes sure that all the ushers and every executive, every member of the church do his bidding. He has a vision of a church in his mind, he executes it, and he makes sure that he ring it into their head that they produce result. And this result, whether they are negative or positive, we must admit that these people, they get whatever they want. But what are the factors that they're employing is the fear factor. Like recently I was watching, and TB Joshua came to Cuba, one of these countries, and he was welcomed like a president. This is not even Africa, this is entirely out of Africa. But these people, they made police and soldiers and people, they lined up and welcomed him from the airport and took him in. So I noticed that this program was arranged by the people. He didn't spend a dime for the program to be arranged, and they still paying huge amount of money through the offering they paid, which he took this money back to Nigeria. And these pastors too, despite that they are bad, we must admit that they are entrepreneurs. We must also admit that they are very good in their craft. So, and the last scandal that happened, I think it was 2015 or 14, I can't remember, I think 2015, 16. There was an incident that happened in Nigeria of the TB Joshua Church that collapsed. About 200 South Africans were involved. If I'm not mistaken, the figure, I think the figure is higher than that. A lot of people were involved. Death, the building collapsed on them. That was the first time that I took notice that actually a lot of people come from foreign countries to Nigeria to worship. They follow these pastors in large quantity. They come in. Then I discovered that there are people that are coming from Philippines, people coming from Sierra Leone, from Liberia, from different countries to visit Nigeria. But what is it? When these people come to Nigeria, they spend money in hotels. Some of them stay for 3-5 months to be able to see the GO, the pastors. They sleep on the ground. Some of them, they do everything possible to see them. So they are coming to Nigeria. They come with a bunch of money. They try to give a pastor or try to spend. They spend money whenever they come. So whenever they come into Nigeria, they rent hotels, they buy food, they do a lot of things, which also help to improve the economy of Nigeria, because somebody who produces akara will need somebody that will buy it. So this question surrounds the question of religious tourism in Nigeria. What do you think about that? What do you think about religious tourism in Nigeria? Just like the example of them traveling to Israel or to Saudi Arabia to spend their money because they think they are doing it for God, but actually they're improving the country's economy. The same thing is happening in Nigeria, where you have influx of people. They come in, they spend the money. It also not entirely bad, the church system, because in this aspect economically it helped improve the economy. So what do you think concretely about it?
Talking about it in terms of religious tourism,
yes,
or pilgrimage, I think we have to look at it in two different aspects. If we are going to examine it and look at it purely as an economic venture, that might be a good thing for the country. It could be a good thing for the country. But from what I know, I think when these people go to Nigeria, most of them are not encouraged to go out of the camps and the territories where the churches are in. So I guess that the churches themselves have their own hotels,
yes,
their own restaurants, their own buildings, and those people just stay in there and spend all the money they have to spend within that vicinity without even touching the larger economy, the larger life of the people. Even though the money will still remain in the country, but it's more like the country is not feeling too much directly. Their impact is more like a kind of monopolized structure, the way these religious organizations are practicing it. But still, the country might still gain one way or the other, maybe indirectly. So, in that sense, we could see it as something positive, that tourists are coming to the country and the country is benefiting economically. But looking at it from the spiritual aspect, as a pastor myself, I don't think I'm too positive, I'm too impressed, I would say. I'm not sure I'm too impressed by the fact that all these foreigners are coming to TB Joshua's place, because they are actually not seeing God in that place. They are deceived to think that they are seeing God. But as far as I'm concerned, they are being deceived. They are being sold deception, and they are being sold fake illusion. And when the bubble bubbles, which is going to happen sooner or later, it could backfire and a big backlash for the country when the real thing appears on the ground. So I think sooner or later, real Christianity will feature in Nigeria. And when that happens, I don't want people to be saying, no, we don't believe those Nigerians anymore. They have deceived us so much, and that only fake things can come from that country. So now they are going to stay away from Nigeria even when the real thing comes and when it's now the time for them to come. So anything you build on deception will backfire sooner or later. One of that backfiring is the tragedy like you just mentioned. But that is even a small one, because once they discover that TB Joshua is using hypnotism and deception, and that Chris Oyakilome is oppressive and and domineering, and that they are not really images of Christ, they are not examples of Christ like the people are looking for, it could lead to disillusionment that will make people to despise Nigeria and to keep off from coming to the country. So that's why I am a little bit wary about my opinion in regards to this question. On one hand, you could say there might be some measure of economic benefit, but on the other hand, I am careful not to recommend or commend these practices that I personally think that might not represent the Christianity that I've come to understand.
Okay. All right. The next question is, this one is a little bit tricky, but I trust you can answer it. So it's all for the poor in humanity has never done anything wrong, but his only crime is not to believe in Christ, in the Christian God. Will he still be sent to hell if he's so good? And one of the recent examples is a couple I worked with. The man died at his age 94. I don't know if I'm loud enough. Am I loud?
Very good.
Okay. So this man died at 94 and the wife died at age 90. I worked closely with them and I noticed the affection between the two of them, and I was so touched. Anytime I come over to see them, he would just say, Captain Innocent. That's how I used to come. He would just give me salute because he participated in the Second World War.
Yeah.
So this couple are not Christians at all. But he built a very comfortable life for his family, for his children. And the affinity between him and his wife happened in such a way that after he died, within a week, she too went away. Because at that age, as old as she is, she'll be seated on her wheelchair and he will come around. She'll be like, John, where are you? I will say, John is downstairs fixing some of the other things. He was struggling because he was told that he had cancer. He had 7 months to live with the cancer. So, but 7 months came, he was still alive. 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. They told him that he will not supersede 10 months. So he died eventually. So she will be crying at her age. The man will just come in and start kissing her. Oh, baby, stop crying. He will pet her, stop crying. So I saw the affection between these two couples. The affection, they were so close with each other, like brothers and sisters. So he died eventually, and she kept crying. I tried to console her, to walk, to make sure I tried to cheer her, because that was my duty as an auxiliary nurse. But nothing worked. Within a few days, I just came in the morning and I saw that the entire family were standing and they were looking at me with their hands folded like this. Then I knew something went wrong. They were like, sorry, Innocent, your people are gone. I said, okay. I felt really, really bad. So these people are not Christians, but they lived a very simple and a very perfect life. The couple life was super perfect. And this example, there are so many examples of people like that. And I will not talk about some of the good things they did to me personally. So it will hurt me if one day I found myself in heaven and then these people are born in hell only because they did not believe in the Christian God. But I do. But these are good people. They didn't harm anyone. They didn't hurt them. Or they didn't go to kill people around. They never lied for any reason because they don't have any reason to lie. Or probably the example I just gave of Dangote, if he spent his money in philanthropy, helping people, the poor, despite that he's a Muslim, what will happen to his soul when he dies? Will he still go to hell?
I would think that that question is a question that should not pose a problem to God to settle and to handle. I think he who goes to heaven or hell is in the hand of God. We believe in God, and we also believe as Christians that God so loved the world that he does not wish that any human being will go to hell. So God is concerned that nobody will perish. God's concern is that everybody will be saved. So we have to start our analysis from that vantage position. And that vantage position is the fact that God loves people so much that he himself cares that they will not perish, even at a time when man himself doesn't care for his own salvation. So I see the demonstration and the care of God for the salvation and well-being, eternal well-being of man going beyond any man's care about a fellow man. So, for example, you now, let's say you represent atheists and agnostics, people who don't believe that there is God, who don't believe in the Christian God. Nevertheless, you care enough that people who are good on earth will not go to hell. But if you could care as much, I just want you to know that God cares better. God cares more. And his care is seen in the fact that even for the atheists and the communists and the agnostics who don't believe that he himself exists, God cares so much for them that he keeps them alive every day, gives them provision of natural needs like sun, oxygen, everything. And didn't just stop at that. He cares so much, even for people who don't believe in him, that he came to die for them. So if he would go to that extent and to that level of dying for the people who even deny him, I think God has got the back of those kind of people that you are talking about. So
okay.
the nature of God tells me that God is going to fix it. And he's going to fix it in a way that is going to be just. And it's going to be love. Because he himself is more concerned about them than you and me.
Okay. That's really interesting, because I'm trying to look at this from the point, I don't know, I might be misinterpreting the standpoint of the Bible, because I thought the requirement might only believe, like you have to believe in Christ as your personal savior, because we have example of the Pygmy in India. These are isolated people in an island. They have never listened. They don't have any access to Christianity, and they have never even heard of. People don't visit them now. The Indian government is posing threats to their extermination, but nobody visits them. So they have never heard of this gospel. They live their life isolated, and most of them are dying. They give birth to children. They die continuously from generation to generation. So these are people that have never heard of the gospel, certainly. So I'm thinking of them in my mind, and I'm thinking of the standpoint of the Bible that is calling people to believe for them to be saved. So here we are, people died without having the opportunity to even hear the gospel or to even believe in it. So I'm worried also about my Muslim friends who are good, my friends who are just good. And me personally, I'm a good person, I suppose. I do believe that, because I haven't done any harm to any person, and I wish that humanity progress. I wish that good things happen, that North Korea will not throw bombs or atomic bomb on people, and I also wish that Fulani people will stop killing, and so many good things that I wish about humanity. And I carry the burden of Nigeria in my heart every day when I see people suffer a lot, like the Palestinians, sympathetic to their struggle and a lot of things. So I don't know if it would be just for God to send me to hell, even after all the love I have for humanity. That's a point of concern. So I don't know. I'm questioning myself. If at all I die eventually and I discover that, yes, there's this God that wants to judge me for my deed or for my belief or for what I do, I don't know where do I stand? From the things I believe or the things I do, where will I be judged?
You'll be judged by whether you reject the provision for salvation that God provided for you. God cares for you. It's like saying somebody is drowning in the river. He's drowning, he cannot save himself. And then the emergency service comes and throws a salvation, or what do you call it? Salvation kit. I mean, cycle, what do you call that? Life cycle. Throws him a life cycle to be saved, to deliver him, and then the person rejects the life cycle. So who is to blame for that? So Jesus is that life cycle. And if he cares for you to come and die, and he proved his love for you by actually dying, I think the most normal attitude and response will be not just to accept that life cycle, but to actually be grateful for it. So if we're talking about people who never heard of the gospel, people who didn't have the opportunity to listen to the gospel, it's one thing. But people who rejected the salvation is totally different. I think they're going to be judged differently.
Okay, so I think the question is, will I be judged by the things I believe or by the things I do? But will I be judged by my act or by my beliefs?
There is no way your acts will be good enough for salvation, because God is a holy God. So he does not trust your acts, because your acts don't qualify you to stand near God. So you need help. And the reason you need help is because even when you've not done any evil in your own assessment, but there are people out here, even right now, that are watching now, or they are not watching, that are angry at you, or that are not happy at you, that think you have offended them one time or the other. Even other human beings. So every one of us is at fault. Every one of us is guilty. Because of that, and we're talking about a righteous God and a holy heaven. So because of that, your own righteous acts will never be enough. You need help. So what is the help you need? You need the help of somebody who will say, even though your own righteousness is not good enough, I, who is going to judge you, I am giving you a consideration. I am coming to your side to say, okay, your own righteous act, no matter how good it is, do not be fit to get you to heaven. But don't worry about it. I will purify you to make you qualify for heaven. So it's not about what you do or what you believe. It's about God's qualification. It's about you not being good enough and God coming to your aid to say, when it comes to God, his own level of righteousness is too much. His own level of holiness and requirement is higher than any man will ever be fit for. So it's not about what you do or what you believe, but it's about you trusting and appreciation and receiving the help that you are being offered. That the help which says that it is the blood of Jesus, it is the blood, the holy blood of God that is going to qualify you there. It's going to cleanse you of your own weaknesses and of your own sin and of your own inadequacies. So if that blood is going to be, that blood is going to be seen in heaven, even though you might have done some things that are wrong or that are not perfect, but the blood, that blood covers you, and anyone, no matter whatever you have done, because that blood, you have asked for forgiveness and you have accepted the sacrifice that was given to you, the help that is being given to you. That blood that is shed for you is what is going to be seen on your behalf in heaven. And you are going to be, you don't need to do anything, just accept help. You are going to be, that qualifies you for salvation and for eternity, eternal life in heaven. So the idea is not that God came or sent his son to the world, or God wants to condemn the world. So the idea is not about condemnation. So God is not thinking about condemning Dangote. God is not thinking about condemning those old people. God is not thinking about condemning those tribe in India. God is working around the clock to make sure that they are not condemned. That is the way I'm looking at it. So because the Bible says God didn't send his only begotten son to the world for the world to condemn the world or for the world to perish. But he is sending his only begotten son so that the world will not perish, so that he will not condemn the world. He doesn't want to condemn the world. So God is working around the clock to make sure that no one is condemned.
Okay, because this, I want to understand that is it not the omniscience God, the
Yes.
all-knowing God,
Yes.
who knows the beginning and the end of the world?
Yes.
Does he require such effort to perpetually continue molding his it's like it's not a finished work yet. It's like the earth is a work in progress, which we are made to believe by the Bible, by the explanation that God preconceived the world in his mind already. He already knew the destiny of man. Does it really require that much effort to reconcile, to break, to remake, to mold, to refine the humanity, to sacrifice the effort? It seems as if he's struggling with his creation. He's struggling to fix things in place.
I don't get the question.
Okay, God, let's take for instance an example of an architect who made a plan of a house that the house seems to be faulty. The foundation, right from the beginning, the very day that human was created, it was faulty. Everything failed, and the creator now, the master architect now is struggling to replace things. He's struggling to first of all come and die for the sin, give his own son, and struggling and shedding blood and coming through different funny ways to try to reconcile human being and a lot of things. So it's a bit tricky. It's like somebody, a child that is playing with his toy and doesn't understand how this thing works. But we're made to understand that this person is omniscient, he's omnipotent, he's all-powerful God. So it's somehow tricky to see that he's struggling with his creation. I'm not sure if the word struggle is the right word, but that's what it seems according to the explanation you're giving now. Because here we are, I'm expecting God to already know my destiny now. And probably, for instance, forgive Satan for the wrong he has done and then probably just make life easy for us. But it's a bit tricky in this situation. I don't know if you would like to address that, so we'll go to the third question.
Well, this situation that we're addressing is a little bit different from the example you gave or the illustration you gave of an architect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In the case of the architect who created the sketch or the building, and the architect is just like God, is the author and finisher of the project. But in the case of the building doesn't have a soul. And the building doesn't have a right of choice. The building is not given a willpower. So let's say now, for example, that architect has conferred upon the building the power of choice. That architect now will need the permission of that same building before he could come to demolish it and to make it up again. Now, if he had conferred upon that building the right of choice to tamper with it or to not to tamper with it, then it will be violation of agreement for the architect to now come and say, okay, I made a mistake in the beginning or something. So that is one aspect that we have to use to look at this thing. So man has been given the willpower. And according to the willpower that has been given to man must exercise that willpower. Man has the will to be able to say, yes, I see that I'm in trouble. Help me. Just like the building, just like it would have been the case with the building. That, yes, I see that I'm cracked and I'm collapsing. Please come in and give me help. That's all that God needed from man. But that is on one hand. Now let's address the question of omniscience and omnipotency of God. When it comes to God being omniscient, all-knowing and all-powerful. Unlike the situation with the architect that you said created the building or built the building and the building was faulty from the beginning. That is not the case with God. When God created man, man was not faulty. God, as omniscient God and omnipotent God, did the perfect job. After God finished creating man, he said everything was perfect. Everything was good. God looked at his creation and he said everything was good. So God didn't do an unfinished job. And God didn't do a faulty job. God did a perfect job. The person responsible for man's deprivation and for man's fall is man himself. That's why he needs to participate in his own salvation. God provided salvation, just like the man that is drowning in the river, and a emergency service came, throwing him the life cycle and take it. We have done everything from our own side. We are giving you life. Take life. That man needs to accept it. He needs to accept that life cycle that is thrown to him to come out so that he will not be drowned. That is exactly the situation with man. So God is working all around to help man and convince him that you don't have to perish. You don't have to reject salvation. You have to be aware that you are drowning. You have to be aware that the house is cracked and that you are going down. And acknowledge it that you need help. Once you acknowledge it that you need help like that, the help is already available.
Okay. So this is the same cycle. It's the same cycle. We see a situation where the creation of the creator is imperfect. For instance, the man in his being, in essence, is imperfect because the man, according to the Bible, with the example we just gave now, brought this damnation upon ourselves. We have to go on again and seek the face of God. So we see that it still goes back to the same cycle, because here you created a thing and make it imperfect, and then again struggling with the same cycle and going on and on. But I would like to know your opinion about the future of Christianity currently in Africa in the next 30 years. What do you think is the future of Christianity
in Africa?
Good. Yes, what can you predict the future of Christianity?
Well, I think the future of Christianity, for one single reason, is going to be wonderful and promising. I think real Christianity will be introduced to Africa, and Christianity is going to flourish. And by the grace of God, the number of atheists and agnostics is going to be reducing, and is going to be reduced to minimum. Not because of because of church, the way it is now, but it's going to be because of understanding of the Father God himself. So what I would say is, another factor, what makes me to be positive about Christendom in Africa, is the fact that I am going to be a player on the African scenario. I'm going to be a player and participating in the emergence of the new Africa, and of the new church, and of the new Christendom in Africa. And because as a person, I'm just one man, one person, and as a result of that limitation, I'm forced to believe in myself more than I believe in others. I cannot answer for what other pastors or Christians are doing, but I can answer for myself. So to speak for myself, if by the grace of God, God will permit me to move to Africa, in the next 20, 30 years, Africa will be experiencing renaissance. Africa will be experiencing development, and Africa will be experiencing growth, and Africa will be experiencing explosion, economically, socially, spiritually. Because I know the God that I know, I am sure of this God that I know, I'm sure of the Christianity that I believe in, of the truth that I know, and I know that this truth is capable of transforming any society. So I believe that in the next 10 to 30 years, when I will be back in Africa, Africa will come alive as if Christianity is just coming back all over again. Deception is going to be wiped out. Truth is going to take center stage. And Renaissance is going to, be recorded in the African continent.
I follow your teachings on the Truth series and on the Law and Order too. And one of the series, you talk about development, how to use Christianity as a tool of development. And you personally also admit that the countries like Dubai that are not Christian countries were able to develop without the help of Christianity. But you think that Christianity, in one of the teachings, you were speaking concretely that these are the teachings, these are the value that Christianity brings. But in other side also, we also see that, yes, there are other countries that actually are developed even without the Christian values. So why do you think Christianity is necessary? Why do you think, what are they doing differently from Christianity in your own point of view? What are they getting, right?
What is who getting?
The countries that are developed without the help of Christianity. For we can give example of China, how they came on, they were fighting religion and things were changing gradually. We saw the zeal and the eagerness of the people to embrace reforms in their community without any, they didn't seek for a spiritual succor somewhere. They fought, they sweat. One of the example what they did, I remember one of the part of their history was there was a time they were being oppressed. I think now it would be around 1917, 18, 20 something, when the Japanese invaded China. They were occupied them and they were bombarding almost the entire city, killing millions of people. So they needed ammunition from the US, and there was no way to be able to bring this ammunition down because the Japanese naval force was very super strong then. So they encircled the entire China, blocking any aid, foreign aid that would come from them, maybe weapon and importation and those things. So the only way they can be able to import arms into China was to go through India. They have to cross the mountains and all this. So there were these big mountains between the border of China and India, and they had to construct a road. And the American construction company that would construct the road gave them a time of 10 years to be able to construct the road that will connect China and India and China, but through breaking that mountain, putting grenade and breaking stuff. They gave them a span of 10 years that, okay, this company would take, so they saw that it would take so long to build this road. But the people were so determined that they couldn't wait for the company to go in and this thing. They constructed the road within a year. Millions of people died constructing that road. They pounded the rock with their hands, breaking the rocks, breaking. They line up. A lot of people die of dust. They die of starvation, eating one bowl of rice every day to work. One bowl of rice. Some of them were super skinny. The documentary is there. People can go and search for it and so millions of people die sacrificing their life for the future of what China is today. So we saw the natural zeal, we saw the motivation. We didn't see any spiritual force behind this. We saw people that are determined to bring change into their country. So they did this thing and built their country. We saw the Dubai, which was a desert recently, but right now everything changed within 10 years. They built and raised up their country. But you, in your position, you are advocating that Christianity is the sole idea that can bring you, because you said a lot of things. You talk about how Christianity is good in Europe, how Christianity is good in US. You try to make some point, but you are standing here saying that Christianity is the only ideology that one can use to go further. What do you say about that?
Oh, yes.
Are you trying to say that without Christianity there won't be any development?
Yes.
Okay. Can you expand on that?
Since you know me very well, if I had said this to somebody else who has not followed me and who has not studied me, they would just say I'm foolish and that I'm ignorant. But since you have already followed me for so long and you know me, I think by now you should have been convinced that I'm not ignorant. I might know something that you don't know, but I'm not ignorant. So if I'm saying something that people don't understand, it's because they don't know what I know. It's not because I'm ignorant. So now, did Dubai develop without Christianity? Even you, on a second thought, you will now answer that, yeah, you are right, they did it. All the Arab countries that are living well, Kuwait, Dubai, Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, all of them were developed by Western expatriates and by Western companies and industries. The only thing they did is that they opened their countries up for Westerners to come. If you go to Dubai today, only 40% of indigenes are there. 60% are foreigners who are developing the country. The indigenes are not even doing anything. So Christians developed Dubai. And not just Dubai. Anywhere in the world that is developed today is as a result of Christianity. If you want, you could go to China. If you want, you could go to Japan. If you want, you could go to Korea. Anywhere, mention any spot of the earth that is developed today, and I will tell you that it's because of Christianity. Let's go to China. You just narrated a very interesting, very touching story of heroism of the Chinese people. But what you are not telling people is that at that same time, when without Christianity, when they were doing that without any faith, at the same time, on the other parts of China and throughout China, there was no value for human lives. To the extent that even when a husband dies, the wife could be sacrificed as well. They were killing each other, doing all kind of horrific things. China is one of the most, millions of people died just out of poverty, out of wickedness, out of, it's one of the most pathetic. You were talking the other day about the gory stories of the Bible, of killings and blood in the Bible. Go and study the history of China. You will take the Bible and you will be kissing it. The Bible will look very holy to you after that. All the killings that are recorded in the Bible, they are nothing compared to the killings and destructions of life and everything that happened in China among the Chinese themselves. So how did that stop? Even the Cultural Revolution. Go and read just the Cultural Revolution that just happened recently. I'm not even talking about the old ones. Mm-hmm. So, but before the Cultural Revolution, things were even worse. So now, there is no part of the world that has experienced civilization without Christianity. Because before the advent of Christianity and the coming of Christ, it was the whole world was ruled by one principle. The principle of strength and power. It is the survival of the fittest. You survive only because you have more power. Either it's political, or social status, or financial power. Human beings were not rated as equal. Christianity introduced first the concept of equality of human beings. It's a new doctrine. It's a know-how. The whole world never even thought about it, that people could be equal. In every culture, there will always be 1% or less than 1%, 0.1% of the elite, of the people that are the ruling class. And the rest of the population will be their slaves, working for them. Christianity stopped that. Christianity brought dignity to humanity and to man. Let's talk about other people's religion. Before Christ, most of the religions of the world, you can only die and sacrifice your own life. And they sacrifice people for their God. But Christianity stopped that. I say no, it is rather our God that comes to die for us, so that we will have dignity and we will be like him in his image and likeness. That's number one. Number two, women were not regarded as human beings in any part of the world before the advent of Christianity. Women were always second class. Children were trophies. So if you have children, they are your property. And you are blessed. But if you don't have children, you are second-class citizen. Even those children you can do with them what you like. Christianity brought civilization to the world. You want to talk about Japan? Before Christianity, they had an emperor. And as a man, and as a Japanese, you have to have you have a vow to die at the word and the request of your emperor, either through war or just anything. Emperors could demand for your life. They could bring your head. Just like the same thing with Africa. The same thing was happening in Africa and every part of the world. Wickedness and treacherousness was everywhere. Christianity put an end to that. So how did then Japan experience development, civilization? Very simple. Japan was a powerful military force because of wickedness. They were so wicked. That's what made them to conquer. And that was how the whole world, that was the way the whole world functioned. The whole world functioned through conquest. The more wicked and destructive you are, the more treacherous you are, the more mean you are, the more you can conquer and kill other people, the more powerful you are. Christianity stopped that. That is why someone as wicked as Napoleon, someone as battle-tested and Napoleon is crooked, but smart. Even someone like Napoleon said, before me, there was Alexander the Great. And he was somebody that I would say was as great as myself, because he was a proud man. And he was the only one that was able to build a bigger empire and win greater land than me. Of course, there was, what do you call it? What do you call this man from
what is that?
Mongolia?
Genghis Khan.
Yeah. What do you call it?
Genghis Khan.
Yeah, Genghis Khan. So
Genghis Khan is
Genghis Khan. Yeah. Okay, Genghis Khan was there also. He was one of the great ones. But Napoleon only recognized himself and Alexander the Great. So he said, but all of us that were great men in history, including myself and Alexander the Great, we became great only because of our conquest. Genghis Khan also became great because of his conquest. Genghis Khan, but that is all wicked, based on wickedness and destruction. So, but what Napoleon said is that, but the only man that has been able to, all these men conquer the world, but the only one that has been able to conquer the world even bigger than us and faster than us is Jesus Christ. But without wickedness, but with the opposite principle to what we believed. It was, we conquered the world through the power of our weapons. But through conquest. But he was the only one who conquered the world through the power of love. Not by destroying and killing, but by elevating and forgiving. By loving. So, 2,000 years ago, before Christ, nobody ever believed that Anybody talking about love, that, you know, that forgive your enemies, that have mercy on the weak, nobody will ever believe you that somebody coming with that concept will ever conquer anything. It has always been the opposite. If you say turn the left eye, no, everybody give you the slap you, turn the left other cheek. Everybody in the whole history of humanity will say you are foolish. That they will just they will run over you. You will become like the carpet. You will become like the rug. Everybody will just flatten you. There is no chance anybody will ever believe that values like humility, being humble, that is stronger than the strength of power. But Jesus came and said, no, humility will conquer the world. The people will say he was crazy. Before him, no, you have to be, in fact, you don't just have to be crazy to think like that. Everybody will just think that you are mad until he proved it. Then to now say love your enemy, that you mean somebody will be coming with machine gun to kill you and say you they love him? Nobody will ever give him any chance that that kind of doctrine or that kind of belief system will ever win the world until Jesus proved it. Nobody will ever say, okay, everybody will be equal with yourself. Men should be equal with men, with women. Kings and citizens, everybody should be equal. What kind of society would that be? Nobody even conceived it, that kind of society was even conceivable in the human mind. Those things were not conceivable. That parents should respect their children and honor them as themselves and as grown-ups. Nobody would think that that was also conceivable. Everybody, every part of the world that have experienced civilization, it is because Christianity brought it. For example, in India, when their husbands die, even up to now in some part of the world, even China too, at that time you are talking about, when the man died, they will bury the husband, when the husband dies, they will bury the wife with him. When they have sacrifice, they will sacrifice their children. All over the world. Until Christianity reached all those places, nothing changed. Our civilization is a tribute to the person of the Lord Jesus Christ. He changed the world by the power of his gospel and the power of his love. That's why I believe in him. Okay.
Well, that's powerful. You know, there's before the coming of Jesus Christ, 3,500 years ago, there was a philosopher that existed. He's called Master Zeno. I think people can search him now. This Master Zeno. Yes. He actually made the statement that said, "Do unto others what you wish to be." I don't know. I've forgotten the right word.
What you wish others to do to you, but he never practiced it. Go and read it. And he never conceptualized it into a community. Talk less of into changing the world. You see, anybody can say anything. The difference between me, Pastor Sunday right now that is here, and any other person that could talk about the gospel is because of what I do. The pudding is in the eating.
Okay. It's in the eating, all right. Okay, but we know recently that slavery, the transatlantic slavery ended 150 years ago, not more than 2 centuries. And the pioneers of this so-called Christianity, the Europeans mostly, who pioneered this campaign of spreading Christianity all over the world, we are the perpetrators of this evil act, which is just ended recently, and not until recently. In short, recently, around 1910 in the US, I think not US, I think Germany, one of this country, there was a child that was human zoo. These are the so-called pioneers of this gospel of Christianity. They perpetrated.
That was in Belgium.
In Belgium, thank you. So there was human zoo that existed until recently, and all the people that took this Christianity, and even before Christianity, we had enormous civilization, for instance, like the Egypt. So I want you to clarify this point. When you say civilization, what do you mean by civilization? Because Egypt was a great civilization. Everything we have today can be credited to Egypt. We had the medicine, the astronomy, and almost everything.
I have a whole book of what you are talking about. So you don't tell me that. I know it very well. But I also get your question. I have a whole book written on it. How Africans brought civilization. And to me, those Egyptians you are talking about were Africans.
So we are giving credit to Jesus Christ. But this thing happened before him. These people brought out the Hippocrates, what they call him, hypocrisy, what they call him, these masters of medicines and all those laws and everything. So the Greeks, the Romans actually copied the land from most of them. Most of their philosophers gave credit, they called the Egyptian gods as their god. So almost every electricity, a lot of things, we saw that even the brain surgery, those things, those people were practicing. So we were giving credit to Christianity, giving credit to Jesus Christ, but we see that even before him, there were morals. There were people that practiced. They can't even kill an ant or any animal. They were practicing humanity. So we see this place.
No. That one. You want to talk about civilization, the Egyptian civilization, or the Persian civilization, or the Chinese civilization, or you want to talk about the Moor civilization, and all those civilizations. Yes, you can give credit to them, but you only give credit to them in terms of their inventions and their discoveries, but you don't give credit to them in terms of civilization.
What do you mean by civilization?
Modern civilization.
What do you mean by civilization?
Beautiful. That is the question I've been waiting for. And that's the question you are supposed to be asking me. Why do I credit Christianity with our modern, and I always say modern civilization? Because this modern civilization is the civilization of truth and civilization of love. Before Christianity, like I said, right now, for example, about 40% of the population of the world is living what they call above minimum, is living, above, they have normal life, 40% of the world. Right now,
below poverty line.
Is it below? No.
Yes. They say below poverty line.
60% is below poverty line, but at least 40% is above it. Okay. It's still not the majority, but at least the civilization. No, what I'm talking about is that progress. Okay, what is the modern civilization? The modern civilization that I said is thanks to Christianity. First of all, is because before Christianity, like the example I just gave to you, people will kill people, people will eat people. That stopped thanks to Christianity. Number two, before Christianity, almost in every tribe of the earth, there is no tribe that escaped it. People will sacrifice human beings to their gods. That ended thanks to Christianity. Now, before Christianity, it was less than 1% of the world that lived well. No, that is independent, that can, live before less than 1%. But Christianity, it improved that, it blew it open. Everybody became equal. Everybody could fight for their equality. Now, before Christianity, more than half of the world, 50%, more than 50%, up to 80% of the world were slaves. Either they were slaves to the ruling class. Even China, they were slaves to their emperors. The whole, emperors were looked at as owners of their own people. And their people were like their subjects or like their slaves. Then there was feudalism before Christ. And feudalism is when less than 1% of the people have money, then the rest of the whole country, they don't call them slaves, they call them serfs or feudalism. The whole country comes to work in the farm and the land, piece of land, in Europe too, of those freights or serfs, and they were living on their compound and working for them. The same thing as slaves. So the whole world was under slavery. Christianity broke that and said the word free. You're talking about Egypt? Why is it that of course, we could say one of the reasons why the black population that built the ancient Egypt, why they went to extinct, or not all of them went down, many of them went into extinction. Of course, that's largely thanks to Islamic religion, but before Islamic religion, it was because of the pharaohs and the system of labor there. People in the millions were being forced into labor. That was a slavery, national slavery. The whole world was like that. Primitiveness and wickedness was the order of the day. Before Christianity, war, small wars on everything, almost every tribe was warring against another. So when I talk about modern civilization that is credited to Christianity, first of all, it is a humanity.
Okay, I see the point.
Humanity. Yes. Number 2 is equality.
Okay.
Number 3, it is freedom. Now you will soon contact me and say, and only after that technology and all that. But before you contact me and say, but what will I say about the Christians who enslaved and the black people and sold them into slavery from Africa to Europe? So what will I say in defense of Christianity in that sense?
And sorry, in addition to that, before you go further, one of my favorite Christian songs is called Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved the soul, the wretched soul. That's me, na na na. And the person that wrote this song actually was a huge slave owner. He's a British man.
He was not a slave. It was not Isaac. It was not a slave owner, Sir Isaac. He was not a slave owner. He was the captain of the ship that transported slaves from Africa to be sold in the Western Hemisphere. So he was not directly a slave owner himself, but he was working as a captain of the ship that was transporting the slaves. He was working for the slave owners. He was
and the
captain
ship
of the ship.
And the ship was named Jesus?
No. It's not the ship that... it's not Jesus. He was, let me tell you the story. Jesus came into the picture much later. And the reason why he wrote that song is because he became a Christian. And that's what I want to answer. That's how I want to address the question. When a man like that, he was a Scottish man, Englishman, that was into this business of selling slaves from Africa. Buying them or conquering them or taking them from Africa and selling them. But he was not the only one. His own field was in as a captain, taking care of the ship and transporting them. But there were people but it was a whole mechanism in Europe. But when you and people like you who are atheists and agnostics say these things were penetrated by Christians, it's not true. That's a lie. It is not Christians who did slavery. Now, the problem with atheists and agnostics is because white people, to them, every white person is a Christian. Just like right now, if you go to an Arab world and you go talk to an Arab and you say you are a European, white European, they think that every European is a Christian because you are white, you are a Christian, you are coming from Europe. Because they are thinking that Europe, every white person or European continent, everybody is a Christian in Europe. Even Muslims who are living in Europe, America, they are still thinking that the people, all these Christians they are seeing, who are doing pornography, who are doing all these things, all of them are Christians. But we know that the fact that you are born in Christian country, or you have white color, doesn't make you an automatic Christian. Most of these people that practice slavery, they were not Christians. And the people that were doing the museum, the museum of black people and showing them like that, they were not born again Christians. They were born in Europe. They would go to to church on Christmas or on Easter. Some of them never even went to Christmas. Not everybody who is European is a Christian. And the fact that these people were bearing Christian names like John, Jonathan, that's what their parents gave them. But they were just commercial people. They were entrepreneurs. They were business people. They were greedy people. It's just like saying you are saying Napoleon was a Christian. Even though it was at the end of at the top of a Christian nation, so to say, or Western country, or even all the presidents, even today, the fact that they are in England, they are president of England, president of something, or kings, that doesn't mean they are Christians. Most of these people didn't even believe in Jesus or in God. It was just a tradition to them. It's just like saying, looking at me now and say that because I'm a black man, then I'm a voodooist, then I'm an animist, or that I am a juju person or Ifa person. It doesn't follow. So now that example you are giving, that Amazing Grace, the person who wrote Amazing Grace, the way this thing is being propagated among the atheists, and especially among the black intelligentsia, the African-American intelligentsia, is that man is a Christian. And because he's a Christian, that's why he wrote that song. And they are using that song as a confirmation that he was a Christian. Amazing Grace is still being sung today. But they will not tell you the truth about that song. The truth was actually that after he was in the process of him transporting black people like that, that is actually what led him to Christ and to salvation. He was a participant in it. He was also beating them. He was also killing them when they want to fight or rebel. He did all that. He as a European, but not as a Christian. It was in the process of doing that Jesus appeared to him. And he converted to Christianity and resigned as a captain from his job and wrote that song that how wretched I was. Amazing Grace. You look at the words of the song. You will see that he's telling that I am the most wretched sinner. I am the most condemned sinner. I don't deserve forgiveness. But thank you for dying for me and for forgiving me. And he became a promoter of freedom for slaves. And became an abortionist after he became, abolitionist, sorry. Abolitionist after he became a Christian.
Okay.
That's when he wrote that song.
What will you say to the African atheists now? If you're given the opportunity to address them now, because I know many of them will be listening, what will you say to them?
The African atheists, first of all, should not make the mistake of believing the narratives of...
Because it's interesting because you're seeing me, I'm talking to you because I want you to understand where I'm coming from. You know some of the authors I read and how my ideology is shaped. But it's fascinating to see that most African atheists haven't read some of the things I study. Some of them grew up not believing in any religion. They didn't even read why to believe in any book or be inculcated within ideology. They just found out that Christianity is not fine for them and they abandoned it. The reason why I'm able to see things differently from this perspective because of the journey I went through. So most of them, maybe what you're about to say, they might not even understand they don't know some of these songs, some of the things I've said, some of the books I've quoted, they might not know some of these stories. So it is a different journey. It's not a fixed ideology. Some of them, like there was a lady that wrote me a few hours ago. She was telling me how she, right from age 9, she asked questions. She doesn't feel comfortable with Christianity. Her father is a pastor, and they struggle with her to go into this, and she just didn't accept Christianity today. She remained as an atheist, but she's still following you. So to her, she's a progressist. She's tormented with curiosity. She says she attended almost every church, Olumba, White Garment Church, and different places. Anything that just calling, she just follow. Whether anything that just comes in, she just go like that. So most of them don't understand these ideas. So now you are talking to them. What will you tell them?
There are two things. Number one, they shouldn't believe two groups of people. And they shouldn't be deceived by two groups of people. African atheists, Nigerian African atheists, black atheists should know that they should never believe the Pan-African Afrocentric philosophy that is coming from America. They should never believe them because they are ignorant with all due respect. Now, there were a lot of them that were intelligentsia. They were intelligent people, well read, including the Dr. John that you know, and
Yes.
Clark, you know. But apart from that, but there are a lot of them. But he's one of the most intellectual based. He's one of the one I respect. He's the one I respect because he was really smart. He knows his craft. But he left out a lot of stuff. And it doesn't have the joints and the things that all of them don't have answers to. They build a doctrine, a philosophy on faulty assumptions. And these assumptions now have now become belief systems for a lot of disillusioned black people who are looking for national identity. So a lot of these postulates that these people proposed, they were not based on truth. They were based on grievances, on the injustice that was suffered by the black people, and on the white Christianity that they came across with in America. And that white Christianity, these people were not Christians, even though they were born like white people. They were not Christian. That is not Christianity. So what those people are talking about, and the Christianity, the form of Christianity they are criticizing, the reason I said they should not believe the white, this new black, go back to the traditional faith, go back to African faith. We have our own religion. We have our own thing. And that old school of thought, they shouldn't go back to it because they are thinking, they base that their theology and that their doctrine on the basis that Christianity made us slaves. Christianity did so much evil, which is not Christianity, which is people who say they are Christians, or people who are born in Christian homes or Christian continent. White people, I would say, or Europeans, I would say, but not necessarily Christians. So because of that, because of the fact that their philosophy is based on faulty perception of Christianity, that's why I say they shouldn't believe. If they believe those people, they will go into error and they will be misled, and it could have eternal consequences, because Christianity is not a religion. And these people are basing their arguments on the religion of Christianity. But I am not talking about Christianity as a religion now. So if they would assess Christianity as a religion, then they are going to miss the point. And if they are going to see what Christianity or what so-called Christians have done through history and through slavery of black people, through oppression of black people in America, through the killing of Indians in America, if they will see all those things as Christian acts, then and base their judgment and decisions on that, then no, they are going to be making a lot of mistakes, and they are going to be taking permanent decisions based on faulty assumptions. So they shouldn't believe, they shouldn't take that philosophy serious. That's my first advice to African atheists. My second advice to African atheists is this: they should also not take serious the church that is presently being presented as Christianity in Nigeria, especially the charismatic Pentecostal, all these churches that are mushrooming all over Africa, and especially those coming from Nigeria. They should not take all that as the picture of the ideal Christianity. Again, that is religion. For me, I don't think that Christianity is religion. I want to challenge every atheist, and I want to challenge every agnostic. Everybody that is doubting Christianity, I want to challenge them today not to believe those two schools of thought. Don't believe those Afrocentric philosophers coming, saying go back to your origin, and especially from from Western Hemisphere, from the United States especially. Don't follow them. If you follow them, you'll be deceived, and it will lead to eternal damnation. Don't also take serious our so-called churches in Africa, especially those ones from Nigeria. Because if you take them serious, if you use them to judge Christianity, you are again making the same assumption of thinking that Christianity is a religion. What you are seeing there is a Christian religion, so to say. But it is not Christianity yet. Christianity, in my own understanding, is an experience. It's a life. It is a discovery. It is an encounter. Christianity is a person. And the reason why you listen to me and other atheists come to this platform to listen to me is because I have tried to work on myself to embody that personality that is Christian, I try to work on myself to epitomize, yes, that personality that is Christ. I want to say that Christianity, in my own understanding, is an encounter with Christ. That's the way I would rather say it. It's an encounter with Christ. So anybody who is in Christian church or a Christian pastor, that everybody must have their own personal encounter with Christ before they could judge Christianity. If you don't judge Christianity by the organization, don't judge Christianity by the structure, by the mechanism, by the thing, it has to be an encounter. Therefore, I will challenge today all African atheists and agnostics to do everything possible to try and have that encounter with the person of Christ. I know how to do it. If they are interested, I could help them.
Okay. What I would like to say, in addition to this, thank you for the answers you gave. I want to encourage people, a lot of atheists and agnostics, those that are listening right now and those that will watch in future times, to go back to watch your teachings. Many of them are fascinated. They don't understand why I follow your teachings. They don't understand why, even though I don't believe in the Christian God, they don't understand why. But you will see a lot of things. Your work is bringing out big-time result. It's working. And I confess in the previous interview that we did, I said, if personally I would discover that Christianity, whether Islam or Buddhism, anything at all that can be used as a weapon to develop Africa, to set up a moral standard for our people, at least that will promote humanity, that will develop our community, I'm never willing to lay my life for it. So that is the form of pragmatism I want us to apply whenever we are approaching religion, not just to be close-minded. You know, you made mention of the Afrocentric view, and you made mention of the second part, but I'm not sure all African atheists, those that are listening right now, I'm not sure many of them will agree. Most of them will claim that they are scientists, and most of them don't even know of this idea of this Afrocentrism or Pan-Africanism. But these are some of the ideas that we develop personally. We personally have an association organization, my little group, to promote Pan-African ideas. These are my ideas, but I know that there are a lot of atheists today, a lot who had their personal experience, but most of them never even heard of the word Afrocentrism. So they might not know about Sheikh Anta Diop, they might not know about Dr. Henry Cloud, they might not know about Johanna, they might not know some of those ideas, they might not even know about the American movement. But personally, I read some of those authors. I read Dr. Henry Cloud. I respect him, but I was smart enough not to believe what he said. I noticed that there are faults in most of his ideas, but the person I respect so much till today is James Baldwin. He never came out to claim that he's an atheist or an agnostic, but he was a pastor, a Baptist pastor. He
was more a writer, right?
Exactly, he was a writer. So, but in his writings, I read a lot of his book. There is the one he called it The Fire Next Time. One of my favorite books.
But he too was writing from the school of thought of viewing white men as representatives of Christianity, as Christians. He was calling them Christians. And that formulated his environment. You are talking of people that grew up in a certain environment.
I read his book and he never said anything like that. His book are more pragmatic. That is the reason why I admire him. In one of the books he wrote...
But in his book, you will see that he's always fighting for freedom. Right?
The reason why I admire him, that is for that singularism. Because he said that he was a Baptist church. He talked about how he was preaching. He was at the back of the pulpit, how he was cipher. He knew the craft of preaching. He can manipulate people with sweet words. When he abandoned Christianity, he fought Minister Louis Farrakhan. They found one of the movement of the Nation of Islam. He fought him. He fought Muhammad Elijah, because these were the founders of the Nation of Islam. They were trying to drag him into their movement. They were trying to, but in his ideologies are subtle. So I would like to recommend his work to most people, because
I know his work is very practical.
Yes.
And the good thing about him, what I personally like about him, is that he's an original thinker.
That's
and
true.
he thinks out of the box.
That's true.
But I'm talking to you about the basis of his disillusionment in Christianity, because of the inequality that he saw around him. Now, the reason why they had a clash with
Minister Farrakhan.
No, before Farrakhan, that
Elijah
Muhammad. The reason why he had a clash with Elijah Muhammad was because at that point, Elijah Muhammad was becoming very popular, and he was trying to convince all black people like him that the only way out for black American, including Baldwin, is for them to embrace Islam and to go back to, because Elijah Muhammad was trying to also say that Islam is the African religion, a lot of things like that. But this man is too smart, and this man is too pragmatic, that he is just against things that are not working all right in the society he was in. That's why I'm telling you that you are talking to me about people who grew up in a certain environment. They were molded by their world. They were molded by the injustice of the world they grew up in. They were molded, they were conditioned by the realities that they encountered. And the Christianity that was sold to him is the same thing. He is seeing the world through that Christianity that was given to them by white people. And he didn't see that Christianity as being justified with real life. It's the Christianity that he saw, and then he is believing that those things are just being, it's a distraction to black people, and black people, it is not, it doesn't have anything to do with real life. But what I am saying is that if Baldwin himself had lived at a different time, his belief system would be shaped differently.
I get your point. You were saying that he was born into that atmosphere of slavery and all those things, but he was
not born into it. It was after he was born after slavery.
Yes, he was. Of course, it will still shape his thinking. But in his book, this particular, I will say, if you read, you will see the idea behind his book. It's called "The Fire Next Time." He quoted Bibles, a lot of things. His movement, how he became here, he lost faith in Christianity. So he never hated the white men. He never talked about them being Christians. He talks about having friends that are Jews. He talks about his sexuality, how he was an homosexual. He talked about the hatred, how he came to France and lived here for a while and went back again. So he also
didn't find satisfaction in Europe when he moved to Europe. He didn't find satisfaction because he was living at a time when everything, you could say he lived ahead of his time. Because if he had lived now, for example, people would have said his lifestyle people are more tolerant to his lifestyle that he had. But that time, it was condemnation. So all those things also formulated his belief system. And I would not say that God doesn't love, even homosexuals. That is for example, the mindset that came across in his time, for example, that the church is against it, and since the church is against it, it's like God also is against it. God might be against the sin. My own position is that God might be against the sin, but God loves everybody. But I think, yes, maybe the church, that's why I'm saying people shouldn't mistake Christianity with religion and with the Christian religion. The fact that most churches today, even in America and even in Europe, they seem to be fighting against homosexuality, and they don't do the difference between the practice itself and the person who is practicing it. Personally, I might have disagreement with the most Christians in that sense. Because I would think that God loves everybody.
Okay, so okay, that's fantastic. I think this revolutionary movement into Christianity. I know most people will be impressed with this thing you just said now. So reiterating on the ideas of James Baldwin, I understood him. I understood his pragmatism. From the things I've read about his work, he was somebody that was, for instance, a lot of them are the role models. The Martin Luther, the Malcolm X, and a lot of them. Most of them that I've read their work, he is the only person I actually admire, because he told that there's something he said that I would like to quote. He said to the black people, he was having a conference and talking to white people. He told the white people that they committed a lot of atrocities, that they should not forget that the black man is capable of committing the same atrocities they committed, but what he is trying to do is to avoid these things, to make sure that the black man doesn't commit the same mistake that the white man did. So he was talking and addressing directly to the Nation of Islam, or the movement they took. He was addressing most of the leaders, the black leaders that were in his era. So he was very pragmatic. He criticized Elijah Muhammad, his principles. He criticized some of the faulty, even the nationalist movement that they were trying to do. So he has fantastic ideas. So I would like to understand from you right now, what would you think, what would you say if you realize that all these things you have been talking about, with the reputation you have made for yourself, with the works you have done, everything, and you put all your hope in Christianity, you're promoting these ideas, what will you do? What will you say if you realize that Christianity was actually fabricated and falsified? What would you say to your followers?
First of all, I would like to say that James Baldwin, I read his work and I listened to him. He even has video. They have videos of him up to today in films, documentaries, and video of him on YouTube. You can go and find. You know, I listened to him and I read his work, but he's not proposing anything. He's just addressing local issues, resolving, that are good and for the time and for black people, and, trying to create harmony and a more harmonious society. But it's not proposing any answer for eternity. It's not proposing any solution for my soul. It's not proposing any solution that will be, that will last me, that will be good for me here on earth and in eternity. I just see a lot of weakness in their philosophies. But in his own, as a writer, kudos. He's one of my best as well. And then, but and I like what I like about him is that he's a common sense guy. He's a, down to earth, common sense guy, practical guy. And the things he says will improve people's, view about life. And, there is even a movement that is started now to commemorate his life. So there is a group now that is a movement that is started in America commemorating his life, to black people. It's not as popular and not as big as the move for Martin Luther King Jr., for example. But it's there, and they are growing every year, little by little. But that is about that. Now, concerning the question that you asked, that's a very tricky question. But for me, that question doesn't even arise. So let me say it, if I understand you very well, that what about if I realize that all this belief that I've had about Jesus and about Christianity at the end of the day is false, right? Is that
yes, false, fabricated.
Okay.
Then there is more to it. There's more to this God, and not that Christianity was fabricated in history and everything, and false.
I have read those facts, and I've read those arguments, and I've also read, if you want scientific argument about at the advent of Christianity, the personality of Jesus, the person of Jesus, the life and lifestyle of Jesus, and the miracles of Jesus, and the resurrection of Jesus especially. There are historical facts that are much more stronger, much more empirical evidences that confirm the accounts of the Bible and the reality of the personality of Jesus, as against those ones who are trying to disprove him and trying to disprove Christianity, that Christianity is a fabrication. Anyway, nevertheless, let me give you my own personal, apart from scientific evidences and empirical facts that prove Christianity. Let me just tell you from my own personal standpoint, I don't even have that fear. You know, when I used to be a young Christian, I used to think, yes, I thought about that what about if this Christianity, even if they, no, because I came to Russia when I was 19. And when I got to Russia, the school system, the university professors, everybody was bombarding my mind. Not just my mind, but the mind of all the students that were schooling with me, you know, giving us all kinds of evidence that God was not real. So, yeah, I got to a point where I just say, okay, even what about if they are right? So if they, then what I discover is that even if they were right, and I die now, and I discover that there is nothing like heaven and nothing like God, I would have been satisfied with my own life and with my journey, just because there is no disillusionment. I did what I wanted to do. No regret. I lived the best of life. So there's nothing to regret about. But if it happens that Christianity is true, and there is heaven and there is hell, then I have everything to gain. But that is just what I was thinking that time when I was a young man. That is what, you know, what the argument that I had for myself, you know, when I was in the university as a young 20-something-year-old kid. But now, that question, I don't even have it. There is no issue at all about either Christianity was fabricated and will I be disillusioned if at the end of the day I find out that Christianity was a fluke, that there was nothing like that. First of all, I'm not going to encounter that. I'm not going to encounter that disillusionment. Not at all. It's not going to happen. I am so sure of this God. This is not going to happen. No disillusionment at all. I walk with him every day. I talk to him. Let me tell you something. I'm seeing you now, you are seeing me. And by seeing you, I know you are real because I'm talking to you. And you know I'm real because I'm talking to you. But even as real as this our conversation is, the God that I believe in, the God that I've had encounter with, is even much more real than the reality of you that I'm seeing right now. I talk to him, yes. I talk to him every day. I see him every day. I'm in interaction and personal relationship with him constantly. I'm not a believer anymore. There was a time when I needed to believe, but now I don't believe. I don't need to believe in God again. I don't believe in God. I'm not a believer in God right now. I'm a friend of God. I walk with God. I am in a relationship with God. A relationship that is even closer than my own relationship with my children or my wife. To me, God is reality. I have gone so deep in relationship with him that God is more real than this thing I'm holding right here. So there is no disillusionment at all. In fact, I know what is waiting for me when I die. More than that, I even know when I'm going to die because of this God. I know most of the things that are going to happen in my life before they happen and when they are still happening because of this God. So for me, God is not an illusion. God is not an idea. God is not an imagination. God is not a concept. God is life, someone that I live with every day. It's just like somebody will come to you and then there's nobody like, saying MAGAJI. You are not existing. Just as much as you will just, dismiss the person. That's how I would dismiss that idea that will I wake up one day and be disillusioned in God and that this Christianity was fake. No. It cannot be fake because it's my own personal experience. And it's not just a one-time experience, it's a daily, ongoing experience of love, of reality, of physical and spiritual adventure on a daily basis. So that question is not even there. The only people that might be shocked and might have the shock of their lives when they die are the atheists and the agnostics. They are going to have the shock of their life because I know for sure that they are going to be shocked because they are going to discover that there is a God and there has always been a God that loved them, that created them, that sent them out here on a mission, that cares for them, that is waiting for them to carry out the mission and the assignment that is sent here for them, that is so patient with them because of his love, that is waiting. He's not destroying them, he's not condemning them, waiting for them to come and come to the understanding of him. I mean, there is a God that is not just waiting for them in heaven, but there is a God they could enjoy right here, right now. There is a God that could give them experience that is much more high, that could make them to live a high life, much more high life, I mean, much more on the high than being on drugs, much more being in the high, much more than, you know, having sex, much more than having any pleasure. There is a God that is here right now that could give them an experience of love, a love that is greater than the love that a man could give a woman, that is greater than the love that a woman could give a man, or that is greater than the love that children could give parents, or parents could give children. A love that is so, you know, so absolutely unique. That's why I said Christianity is an encounter. Until they encounter what I'm talking about right now, they are actually losing. It's a pity that anybody will lose and will be deprived of this thing that I am feeling, of this thing that I have, that I carry, that I am aware of, that I have heard on more, at least in this country, in this former Soviet Union, most, at least minimum, I've been able to help nothing less than maybe 100,000 former atheists and communists to embrace faith. People who studied atheism as a profession. People who studied communism as degree professors. And they've been helped because I've been able to share with them an experience and an encounter with the person of Jesus, who is the epitome of this Christianity that is void of religion, but that is full of love and kindness.
I thank you. I see that our time is getting closer. You're a man of passion. You live this passion. You don't just so you sound very certain and very sure that you're not living in a world that you created. So it might be certainly you did not consider God in your mind. Probably you're living in an Eldorado that you decided to create it in your mind and believe that this is a perfect world, and you helped others to also help to experience this. So that's when you speak, that's what I see. I see the passion in you. So our time is getting off. We already exhausted all of the time. So thank you so much for the time accorded for this interview. And I hope people will be the judge of this message. You think, you use your mind to analyze everything being said, or what he proposed, and you go on, make research, read your Bible, read books, history, science, notes, and try to look for experience with God as it is. So I salute everyone.
Thank you, sir. I think
thank you.
We are going to be coming on in the next 15 minutes for the next program. And Bayowa will come now and say bye-bye to people and let them come. Welcome people for the next program that we're having. It's already in the next 10 minutes. So Bayowa, sit down and say bye-bye to people.
Hello and bye, guys. Bye. Right. Thank you for joining. Innocent, thank you very much. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Bye.